Namaste yogis, welcome into your full-length vinyasa practice. Today we are going to be reviewing and exploring the concept of Sankalpa. We'll begin in a seat, but before you get there, make sure you have some props and equipment to support you in your practice today. So 2 blocks are always a good idea. They're going to help you extend your arms. A strap perhaps for any binding might be useful since we'll be moving a little bit more today and binding, or you'll have the opportunity to bind. And a blanket's always a great idea for joint support anytime you want to put your knee down on the floor. I like to have a bolster or pillow, particularly for the meditation portions of the practice or Shavasana, to have it be supported. So those are also options as well. So find what you need, make sure you'll be supported for your practice. You can pause the video here if you need, and we'll get started once you're ready, all together in a comfortable seat. Welcome in. So you can begin propped up. Perhaps take your hips a little bit higher than your knees and crisscross your ankles. Of course, if a half or full lotus is part of your practice and feels comfortable at the beginning, that's an option as well. Otherwise, just crisscross or one ankle in front of the other is perfect. Come to a nice tall seat, and if it feels safe for you where you are, allow the windows of your eyes to close. You can come into any gesture that feels comfortable for you. One that I quite like to pair with Sankalpa, or this concept of a sacred vow or promise that arises up from your heart, is Anjali Mudra, which is a mudra or gesture you've worked with. You can bring all of the tips of your fingers to touch and allow just a slightly tented space between your palms, and then bring the nails of your thumbs toward your heart or toward your sternum, your energetic heart right at chest center. Anjali Mudra, 2 hands coming together in this sacred gesture, a beautiful spot to formulate Sankalpa. San, again, meaning highest truth, and Kalpa is a vow or commitment. It's that to which you are dedicated above all else. So this intention infused through the yoga practice is really what separates it from other forms of physical practice or exercise, is that every single movement, every single breath is really infused with your personal Sankalpa, that which best supports you, your highest truth. Rod Stryker says that the chief architect of life is the mind. And so we can allow the mind and the heart to come into union here as we focus on what exactly is our reason for being here today. What is it that brings you to the mat? What is it that propels your practice forward? And if you haven't already, you might start to layer on your Ujjayi breath. If it feels more comfortable, perhaps bring your hands down to your lap, palms up or down for more grounded sensation. Touch the tip of your tongue to the hard palate behind your teeth, and allow your inhales and exhales now to slide through your nose. Find that really slight, really subtle contraction at the back of the throat, at the glottis, so that the exhale has a little bit of a whooshing sound. Remember the Ujjayi, the ocean breath. There's that whooshing wave sound on the exhale. As we invite in through the breath, through this pranayama, this subtle pranayama, a little bit of heating, a little bit of warmth to the body before we even come into physical movement. A few more rounds. Inhales and exhales move through your nose. And if this breath feels supportive, I invite you to carry the Ujjayi pranayama throughout the practice with you today. So as you're ready, allow your chin to fall down towards your collarbones. If you'd like, you can interlace your fingers and rest your palms at the back of your head for a few breaths. If you have your hands resting there, release your hands down to your lap and take a little trace, like an upside down rainbow, with your chin across your collarbones. Lift your gaze slowly up over one shoulder and then the other. And I'll be reminding you throughout the practice, every single movement, every single breath, every time you remember, afford yourself that question or that exploration, the inquiry of why. Why am I here? You know, this is the ultimate life question, right? And this is what Sankalpa is so useful for. What is my purpose? If it feels safe for your neck spine, go ahead and allow your head to drop slowly back between the shoulders without force. So if you hear anything kind of grinding or clicking or popping, slow it down or make it smaller. Reverse the direction, so move in all directions. It might be something more like a big circle with the tip of your nose rather than a full drop back with your head. If you haven't already, make sure you reverse the direction, move in all directions. And then come on back towards center. If you still have your hips propped up, you can slide your pillow or bolster out from underneath you so that you come all the way down to the earth now. Cup your kneecaps with your palms and start to slide your trunk all the way around, big full fluid circles. And maybe you let head, neck, and shoulders to be a little bit watery as well. We're really just feeling into some joint movement, getting some lubrication for the whole length of the spine, a little subtle massage for the organs as we begin the practice today. Reverse the direction of your rolls. Notice any sensation that comes up. Is there a place in your body you feel this a little more or less, or where there's more intensity or less intensity? Slide on back towards center. Swap the crisscross of your feet. So take the opposite foot to the front. So we've been in that position for a little while. And then go ahead and bring your palms back towards your kneecaps. We'll take a flexion and extension of the spine in a seated cat and cow. So as you round your back, act like you want to draw your heart or sternum down toward your belly button and lengthen your arms, drop the weight of your head. And then as you inhale, slide your heart and collarbones upward. Keep your sits bones nice and grounded. You can float your gaze as well. Exhale to round, breathe some space between your shoulder blades, get really, really round. And then inhale, float your gaze, float your collarbones. 2 more breaths just like that. So we're going to take a very fundamental class today, nothing too complicated, lots of techniques for review in order for you to really lace in the concept of Sankalpa, lots of space for you to explore, to take on that inquiry of why, the juice of the practice, what brings me here, what is my highest truth, my Sankalpa. Go ahead and land your right hand down out from your right hip. You can tent up the fingertips or press flat to your palm. Float your left fingertips up and overhead and then spin your gaze underneath your left elbow. Press your left hip down into the earth. Spin your gaze high. Find lots of space in your left side ribs like an accordion. See if you can lengthen out a little bit longer. And then go ahead and float back towards center. Take a pause in the middle. Make sure your shoulders are drawn back and your heart is lifted. And then same option, opposite side. So you can tent up your fingertips or press down into your palm. Reach your right fingertips this time way up overhead. Spin your gaze under your right elbow. And remember, you're simultaneously anchoring your right hip down to the earth. Find lots of space between each and every individual rib on the right side. And then go ahead and bring it all the way back to center. Take a pause. Okay, so you can bring your left shin toward the front edge of your mat. Draw your toes back, get your toes nice and active to bring the ankle and the knee into a more active position as well for protection and support. Stack your right shin directly atop your left. So Agni Stambhasana or fire log pose. As opposed to our Sukhasana or the crisscross of the ankles, there will be an open triangle in your lap. And so for lots of folks, it might look like this. It might be really high. It might be touching slouching flat down. The block's a great support for this one. You can always tuck it in there if the sensation is a little less savory in your practice, then grab some support. So make sure the toes are drawn back. You can stay up nice and high for a few breaths. If you want to layer on a little bit kind of more richness or more sensation, begin to lean your weight forward, or perhaps even take elbows down to the inseam of your right foot and just above your right knee. And then go ahead and inhale all the way back up. As you use your hands to help swap the crisscross of your legs, you might take a little roll with your ankle, right ankle in one direction and then the other. And then go ahead and land your right shin across the short top edge of your mat. Swap sides. Left shin goes ahead and comes atop. Remember, the toes are drawn back to support your ankle and knee joints. Always have permission to pop your block in there for some extra support. Hold here to tall spine. If you've got enough sensation going on, if you want to layer on anything else, you can begin to very mindfully lean your weight forward, perhaps even incorporate your elbows just above your left knee and to your left big toe edge. Deep, full breaths. Remember, you can layer on Ujjayi. 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and slide back up to a nice tall seat. Again, help with your hands to support your left leg. Maybe take a couple rolls with your ankle in one direction and the other. And then you can either roll up over your feet and ankles toward tabletop, or otherwise sweep your feet and ankles around behind you. We'll meet together at tabletop. So knees come in underneath your hips, wrists and elbows just underneath your shoulders. Tuck your 10 toes under behind you. Scoop your belly button back towards your spine. And then hover your knees. Keep your gaze down so your neck spine is nice and long. Root each of your knuckles. 3, 2, 1. Land your knees back down. Take a breath. Watch out for that belly drop that kind of has a tendency to want to happen in this posture. So keep the belly drawn back. We're going to do that 2 more times. Hover the knees. Keep your gaze down, neck spine long. You can extend the crown of your head toward the top edge of your mat. One-pointed resolve, refinement of your will. This is Sankalpa, so check in, especially when the going gets tough. 2, 1, land your knees back to the earth softly. Keep the low belly drawn in. 1 more round, here we go. Tune into your breath. You can layer on Ujjayi if you'd like. Hover your knees, continue to breathe. Deep focus. The Sankalpa brings harmony to body, mind, and heart. So we're in a connective state without force. There can be flow. Exhale, land your knees back down to the earth. Good. This time as you float your knees, go ahead and invite your heels back down toward the earth for your first downward facing dog of the practice. So the knees might stay a little bit bent, or you might want to pedal the knees out a bit. I'm going to ask you here to link your breath with the movement, and there's an option here to land your knees down onto the mat as we move through this. So inhale to roll your way forward. It's like a wave with your spine. Remember, everything is linked. Sankalpa, the movement of your physical body, your mind, your heart. Roll your weight forward and then mindfully allow your knees to drop down. So it's like an upward dog, but you stay on the tips of your toes. Also, you have the option to land your knees. And then as you exhale, rooted in each of your knuckles, wave your spine right back. Invite your heels to the earth, right back to down dog. All right, and then lift your gaze forward. Again, round your back, like a big wave, fluid for the whole length of your spine. Allow your hips to mindfully fall, and either keep your knees hovering, lengthen your neck spine, float your gaze without drawing the weight of your head back, or land your knees, and then exhale, rise high through your hips, invite your heels to the earth. Downward facing dog. Just 1 more round. I'm starting to layer on a little bit more heat to the practice. Remember, you can include your Ujjayi to support strength, to support the fire of your intention, to support the fire of your body. Press all the way back. Okay, so this time settle into your downward facing dog, reach your right leg high. Then deep into your right knee and take a couple big full circles with your right kneecap in one direction. And then reverse it, come around to the other direction. Make sure both shoulders are doing equal work in your upper body, right? Go ahead and land your right foot down, press back, reset into your downward facing dog, find a neutral spine. And then take that over to the opposite side. Float your left leg high, then bend into your knee. Really just offering up some warmth, lubrication, activation for all the major joints of the body. Reverse the direction. And then go ahead and land your left foot down. Bring your gaze forward and take a slow motion walk, just one footprint at a time. Walk all the way up to the tippy top of your mat. And then take your peace fingers and bind around your big toes. You also have the option to bring your hands up onto blocks here if they're within reach. Otherwise, you can bind with your toes. And always remember, you can bend as deeply as you'd like into your knees for any of these, particularly if you have anything happening with your hamstrings that they're speaking to you quite loudly here. So you can use your big toes like an anchor, pull yourself deep into the fold. And then on your inhale, float your gaze, keep your fingers bound on that anchor so there's like a little pull of your scapulas away from midline. And then exhale, pull yourself a little bit deeper. Inhale, float your gaze. Exhale, use those anchors to pull yourself a little bit deeper. You can draw your belly button back toward low spine, toward lumbar spine. Let's take one last round. This time, as you start to lift, take your hands off the bind onto your big toes, press into your shins and lengthen, Ardha Uttanasana. So scoop the tummy in, keep your gaze down to the earth. Remember, you can have a soft knee bend here. That low tummy is going to help support your back. Bring your wingspan out wide and lift all the way up towards standing. Breathe your fingertips down to heart center. Here we come back to Anjali Mudra. Review for Anjali Mudra. Your hands rest at your heart. Here's your space to be the architect of your own experience. To tune into your own highest truth before we begin to layer on more heat, more movement. So let's move through a refresher of our Surya A and Surya B. Sun salutes A and B. From your heart, I love how the hands begin at the heart here. It's like I'm scooping up that Sankalpa, all of that highest truth that is within me. And then I'm going to just kind of spread it out and offer it up as a prayer in movement to the whole universe around me. So from your heart, breathe out your Sankalpa, lift your breath and your palms high up to the sky. Bring your gaze up towards your fingertips, Utthita Tadasana. And then exhale, hinge all the way forward to a fold. You can always bend your knees, find blocks, or right to the earth here. Inhale to float halfway. So that means to fingertips or hands to your shins, Ardha Uttanasana. On your exhale, root your palms, step back with your right foot, follow with your left. Slide forward so that shoulders are just above elbows and wrist, Palakasana. On this first one, if you'd like, land your knees down to the earth, Chaturanga Dandasana with knee variation, bend your elbows just towards your ribs, and then lengthen your heart and the front of your torso up and through. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. On this first variation, leave your thighs down, rooted to the earth, unless you want to float the knees, of course. And then tuck your toes under, float your knees, take a slide all the way up and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. You can bring your ears between your upper arm bones, take a breath. Lift your gaze forward towards your fingertips. So right foot once again, lead with your right, step all the way through. Of course, you can support your leg, your foot with your hand, come all the way up between both hands. Step your left foot up to follow, and then slide up halfway, fingertips or shins. Exhale to deepen into your fold, Uttanasana. And And then inhale, go ahead and come all the way up towards standing. Breathe your gaze upward toward fingertips and pull that right down in to the seat of your intention at your heart. Anjali Mudra. Hold your Sankalpa, your sweet intention, your sweet truth between your palms. Surya Namaskar A. We'll take one more round of Surya A as we build heat here. Inhale, take your arms out wide and high. Following the movement of your exhale, everything's linked. Exhale, float it all the way down and fold. And then with your inhale, there's a lift just halfway. As your lungs expand, your body expands. Exhale to fold once again, all in one breath. This time, step back with your left foot. Follow with your right. You're right back at plank, Palakasana. Make sure your shoulders are stacked. Option as always to land the knees, or this time if you'd like, keep the knees hovering, elbows towards your ribs, and then inhale. You can press to the tops of your feet, find lots of length on the front side of your torso, and then roll up and over your feet. Meet back at downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Draw your ears between your upper arm bones. Your heels don't have to be touching the earth. In fact, if your heels are touching the earth and there's no sensation there, I would encourage you to take a little bit of a step back. So these are the explorations that can come when we are moving with intention, with Sankalpa. Like, what is this posture for? And if I'm not having that sort of experience, what can I shift in the posture in order to lace it with a little bit more intentionality? Go ahead and bring your gaze forward. Step your left foot through or help it on up through with a couple small steps all the way to the top edge of your mat. Bring your right foot up to follow. Lift halfway to fingertips or shins. Exhale, fold it down. And then on your inhale, sweep all the way up through. Reach your gaze and fingertips high. Draw your prayer palms, Anjali, together at your heart. Okay, Surya Namaskar B as review. You can touch your big toes together. Some folks like to bring the whole inseam together or have the feet a little bit wider, more like hips width distance. You can check that out in your own body. Find the variation that works best for you. Sink way down, scoop your tailbone in, reach your 10 fingertips high, Utkatasana. Draw your belly back. Exhale to fold. On your inhale, lift halfway. And on your exhale, step both feet back. Plank. You're going to have lots of options for plank, chaturanga, up dog, and down dog in this sun salute. So either with knees landed or knees afloat. First round, chaturanga. Back bend of your choice. Maybe the knees are afloat. And then exhale all the way up and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Just with one breath, we'll do a little bit slower, maybe 2 breaths per movement. Bring your gaze forward, step your right foot through, spin your left heel down. I would encourage you to leave a little bit of space between your heels so that your hips can square a little bit more closely toward the front of the mat. Reach all the way up nice and high. Slide your ribs back right above the bowl of your pelvis so there's some fire forming here in the low belly. Slide your knee up above your ankle. Vira 1. Soften your shoulders down. Lengthen your neck spine. And then breathe it on down. Here we go. Round 2 of chaturanga if you'd like. Roll to the toes of your left foot at the back. Step your right foot back. Knees land or float. Lift your gaze and your heart. Roll up over your toes. Come on back. Down dog. Here we go. Moving with the breath. Float your gaze forward. Step your left foot up through opposite side. This time around, your right heel spins down. Slide your knee right up above your ankle and rise. Vira 1. Okay, so check in. Ribs are sliding back. I have to remind myself of that one. I get a natural tendency to find that rib flare pretty common. So slide the ribs back so low belly can engage. Slide your front knee right above your ankle and rise. Breathe it on down. Round 3 chaturanga of the sequence. Step back. Knees land or float. Lift your heart high. Roll up over your toes. Land your heels toward the earth. Down dog, take a breath. And then bring your gaze forward. You can walk, lunge, or hop your way all the way up. Slide just halfway to fingertips or shins. Exhale to fold. And then before you rise all the way up first, with big toes touching, sink your sits bones way down low. Reach your 10 fingertips high as we wrap up Surya B with that Utkatasana, that fierce pose on either end. Then go ahead and rise. Take a check in here. Sankalpa allows us space for contentment and gratitude for exactly where we are, and at the same time a humble and rooted desire to evolve and progress and improve, to deepen our practice and our self-knowing, our self-study. Tune into your personal Sankalpa here. And then inhale, we'll take just a half salutation down toward the mat. Breathe your way forward. Touch the earth or your blocks. Lift halfway up. And then go ahead and step both feet back. Land your knees down to the mat. You can always grab your blanket. That's very helpful here. And then you may also perhaps want your blocks on this one. Anahatasana, couple options here. You may take your blocks to the lowest setting, land your elbows toward the top edge, press your palms together, dive your crown just down between your elbows, and then your thumbs can come toward the base of your neck spine. So that's one option. You can take a very similar shape with elbows right down to the earth, right? Or you can keep your arms extended and tent up your fingertips so the arms are really active. So the intention is there's going to be really like a sensation and an effort in the space between your shoulder blades, that backside of your heart. So this is the home of Sankalpa, of our intention. We want to work there. So you can keep the arms extended with fiery elbows and fingertips, or hands at prayer. Drop into Anahatasana. Breathe here. Ensure that your hips are just above your knees so you can adjust. It's like a close cousin to child's pose, but your hips are high, remember. Good spot to return to your Ujjayi breath, if you'd like. Good spot to return down into the root of your heart's message, that highest truth, the san of Sankalpa. And breathe. Keep that interweaving with all of your movements, with your breath, with your practice as we continue on. So if you have your hands at prayer, at the base of your neck, extend your arms long. If you have your arms extended long, meet us there. All yogis, root your palms into the earth, round your back to slide forward. Step your right foot up and through. So again, cushion your back knee if you know you like that expression. Perhaps bring blocks down to either side of your foot. You can sink your hips really nice and low or keep them a little bit higher, more toward neutral, and begin with your hands at Anjali. So lift up, slide your ribs above your pelvis, palms towards your heart, Anjali Mudra. And then with your right hand, take your index finger and your thumb, like an L, hook into your right hip. Take a little slide back with your right hip. Reach just your left fingertips high. If it feels appropriate in your practice, you might also explore sinking your hips a little bit lower. So remember, this right hand is going to act like a tool to keep sliding your right hip back in space. And then lean your left fingertips toward the opposite edge of the mat. So lots of freedom and space in the left side ribs. Inhale it all the way back towards center. Bring your right hand up to meet your left. Full expression of Anjaneyasana can be here, can be with fingertips together. You can tune into the quality, the energy that most supports your practice today. And then circle your elbows back. Find a big lift of your heart, the home of your intention, your highest truth. Big lift and big expression out from your heart center. And then go ahead and inhale. Reach both hands, all 10 fingertips high. Breathe right on down. Find your blocks or hands can press right on down to the mat. Tuck your left toes under behind you and take a float with your left knee. So you're gonna take essentially that exact same sequence now with the knee afloat, or you can repeat with your knee down to the earth. So before we come toward the crescent moon variation, Ashtachandrasana, bring your hands together toward your heart. So you're on the tips of your left toes behind you with your knee active and afloat. The underside of your knee is really awake and alert. Draw your hands together to your heart. Tune in with your Sankalpa, especially when it gets challenging, right? And there's not so much steadiness, or it's really, really hot. The why is what carries you. L with your right hand, index finger and thumb. Hook into your right hip. Reach your left fingertips high. Make sure the left knee stays active, and then lean over. Lean over to the opposite edge of your mat. Find space between each left rib. Slide it all the way back towards center. Let your right hand come up to meet your left. Ashtachandrasana, your crescent moon. Hold here with fingers spread or sharp hands. And then circle your elbows back. Lift your heart really nice and high. Come all the way back up. Breathe your hands down. You can frame your right foot. Land your left knee down to the earth. Slide your right knee back to meet your left. Take a seat back here on your heels. You can come to a tall seat. If you really would like to incorporate a child's pose, you might also come there. Although I would encourage you to take a quiet seat, as we want to keep the practice active. We have the second side to go. Still a couple more standing sequences to go. Zoom in on your breath. Tune into the pulse of your own heart, of your own experience, of your own presence. And then go ahead and slide your weight forward. Find your blocks, opposite side. Take your left foot forward. We begin the sequence with your right knee planted. Back knee stays down onto the earth. You can sink the hips a little bit lower or come more toward neutral. Walk your hands up to Anjali Mudra. Hands at your heart. See if you can find like a little inner squeeze, like a scissoring action toward midline with your back leg and your front leg. Like you want your femurs to kind of crisscross in towards center so you can get really nice and stable. And then take your left hand, this time index finger and thumb, hook it into the front of your left hip pocket, slide your hip back, reach your right fingertips, just right fingertips high. Lean over toward the opposite edge of your mat. If you feel stable with that scissoring action, maybe spin your gaze under your right elbow. And then go ahead and slide it back, reach both hands high, Anjaneyasana. Circle your elbows back for a really big, expansive heart lift. Right on back to Anjaneyasana with hips low or high. And then breathe your hands down. Set up for the second round. So option to lift your knee or repeat with your knee landed. Tuck your right toes under behind you. Take a lift. Get really fiery and active in the underside of your right knee. And begin with your hands at your heart. Check in here. Continue to invite right hip forward. Left knee above your ankle. Then find left index finger and thumb. Track your left hip back in space. Reach your right fingertips high. Begin to lean to the opposite edge. Find all the space up right side ribs. As you expand ribs, you expand lungs, all of that connected to Anahat, the heart center. That's where your intention resides. Your deepest, highest truth. Go ahead and come back to center. Reach all 10 fingertips high, Ashta Chandrasana. And then circle your elbows back. Find a great big heart lift. Still active in the underside of your right knee. Inhale back to center. Breathe all the way down. Go ahead and land your right knee. Step your left knee back to meet your right. And again, come on down toward a seat. I encourage you to keep the heart up high as you track in, tune into the heart and the breath. Although, of course, child's pose, Balasana, is always an option. Perhaps Anjali Mudra as you tune in. All right, one last standing sequence here. It's not a bad idea to have your strap and at least one block handy at the top edge of your mat if you don't already. So go ahead and lean your weight forward. You can set your blocks off of your mat to either side perhaps. Spread your fingers, tuck your toes and reach back toward downward facing dog. Take your right leg high to the sky. I'll start facing forward so you can see from the front, and then I'll show it again on the other side from the back so you get to see all angles. Bring your gaze forward. Help guide your right foot all the way on up between both hands. Spin your left heel down. This one's foundation is a little bit different, Virachu. So front heel is going to go to about mid-arch of your back foot. And then go ahead and inhale. Take your arms out wide and high. Virabhadrasana 2. You can sink deep down into your right femur till your knee comes about over your ankle. And then invite your right forearm atop your right thigh. Before we come into Parsva Konasana, that extended side angle, start to circle your left arm. All these movements for shoulder, for ribs, for heart, are really going to help seed your intention that lives there. The Sankalpa that lives at the heart. Reverse the direction. And then go ahead and reach your left fingertips up over the top edge of your mat. Spin your gaze under your left elbow. Extended side angle. And release. Lift all the way up. You can bring your hands to your hips. I encourage you to heel-toe step. So you have a little bit more of a narrow foundation here. And then perhaps take your block off the front edge of your mat. Bend into your front knee. You're going to stay on this same plane of movement. Bend into your front knee and start to lean your weight forward. Slide up to your left tippy toes at the back. Find your block and allow your left toes to float toward Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. So if you feel steady here with the block, stay. Some folks feel steadier with their right hand down to the earth. You can also keep your left hand to your hip if you'd like. You can spin your gaze out beyond the edge of your mat or maybe all the way to the sky. Perhaps float your left fingertips high for half moon. Really look for a spin, a high lift of your heart. You might even want to bring your hand to your heart. And then here's the option for bind. So remember you have your strap nearby. If you'd like, it's going to create more space for the ribs and more of a heart opening effect. You can bend your left heel towards your sacrum, bind left hand to left ankle, or use your strap to bind and perhaps press to lift. So really spin your heart and your gaze up high if you're in this one. Ardha Chandra Chapasana, a sugarcane pose. And then go ahead and release mindfully. Bend into your right knee, step all the way back, and you're going to lift, power, fire in the belly all the way up. Viratu. On that same plane of movement. And then go ahead and spin down. Cartwheel your arms, land them to frame your right foot, step back right into downward facing dog. All right, so you know we have the second side coming. Take a breather here. Tune into your heart. And inhale, float your left leg high. Bring your gaze forward, step your left foot all the way up through. Spin your right heel down, front heel comes to mid-arch. Take your wingspan way out high. Arms and hands are extensions of Anahata, that beautiful heart center. Settle in, sink into your front hip. Continue to lift your heart and find space and length in the side bodies. That's going to be really important as we move toward that half moon or the sugarcane option. Land your left forearm down atop your left thigh. And before you reach into your side angle, take a couple big full circles with your right arm. Movement into the right shoulder. Notice if you're collapsing into the left ribs, press into your thigh. Reverse the direction of the roll of your shoulder. And then go ahead and settle in. Side angle, reach actively toward the top edge of your mat. Spin your gaze just under your right elbow. Press into the pinky toe edge of your back foot. Strong, solid, infused with intention and heart. And then go ahead and lift all the way back to center. Land your hands down to your heart. Heel toe step your back foot in so your base is a little more narrow. Take your block toward the front edge of your mat if you'd like. Stay on this same plane of movement. Bend into your left knee. Start to lean your weight forward, grab for your block, and at the same time, float your right toes behind you. You can stay here with your gaze down to the earth, right hand at your hip. You can take your hand all the way to the earth. You can start to spin your gaze or lift it up to the sky. Look for a spin of your heart. Maybe take your right hand to your heart. Or perhaps bound variation, bend into your right knee. Look for a bind on foot or ankle or with your strap. Start to press, expand, lift your heart. Notice any crunchiness in the ribs. Find lots of length in the side body. And then mindfully come out. This is as important as the shape itself is our approach, our intention, going in and out. So bend deep into your left knee, step all the way back with a strong low belly. Lift it up, Vira 2. And then spin all the way down to the earth. Square your hips toward runner's lunge, step back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Bring your gaze forward. You can walk, lunge, or hop just about halfway up your mat. And go ahead and let your sits bones land down to the earth. Have your blocks handy. I'm going to spin around toward the long edge of my mat, but you can stay square toward the top edge of yours. And then go ahead and cross your right leg all the way over your left. So it might be towards something like a knee on knee stack. It might be a little bit higher. Again, if that's happening, helpful to prop your block in there. For Gomukhasana in the lower body, reach your left fingertips high. Drop your palm down between your shoulder blades. This is an option. You can stay right here, focusing on drawing your left elbow back in space and lifting your heart. If you know the Gomukhasana bind, finger to finger, is in your practice, you can take your right hand behind your back or have your strap handy, or grab for a piece of your shirt. Take a breath. And then if bound, go ahead and release that. Take a fold all the way forward. And inhale, lift your way all the way back up. And apologies for the quick video blip here. You can swap on over to the opposite side. So you have the left knee on top now, and then settle your sits bones down to the earth. Next side. And then once your lower body is settled in, reach your right fingertips nice and high. Again, look for that side body space. Land your right palm between your shoulder blades. Option is stay right here. Focus on drawing your right elbow back in space and find a nice lift with your heart. Or of course, if you like that Gomukhasana bind, take your left hand behind your back. Fingertips to fingertips or with your strap or tie. And then go ahead and untangle, unwind. If you're bound, take a fold forward. Remember to breathe. And inhale. Slow lift back up towards center. So you can untangle your lower body, come to crisscross. And at the back edge of your mat, take one block at the tallest height and then one block at the middle height. You can always adjust once you come down onto it. If you feel like it's a little bit too high, you can always go down to the lower height as well. And then go ahead and bring your sits bones toward the lower block. Draw your feet together. In the midline, you'll let your knees hinge open. So inseam is open upward toward the sky and feet are touching in the midline for Baddha Konasana. We're going to take a reclined, a Supta Baddha Konasana. So you can adjust the lower block, make sure it lands about mid-thoracic spine. And then find the taller block and make sure it lands exactly where you need it to support the weight of your head. Supported variation. Let your palms rest open upward toward the sky. So you get this really beautiful passive heart-opening shape. To soften down, begin to soften and settle down into our practice. And a great spot to tune back into your intention, your Sankalpa. And notice how at the end of practice it's less intellectual, it's less mental, and it's usually something that's a little bit more corporal. It's like somehow infused into your very existence after moving through with such deep presence and such deep truth. Can you sense that, how you're tied in to those deepest vows, those promises to you, for you, from you that have been inscribed on your heart? Continue to breathe right where you're at, your reclined Baddha Konasana. So Rod Stryker talks about the two parts of each of us, that we are always at all times simultaneously being and also becoming, which I just really love this reminder. There's the Pada Atman, that is that transcendent part of us, that it's inherently one and does not need anything. It is residing in its wholeness, its innate perfection. And then there's the Jiva Atman, as he says, the part that really comes to life when we tap into purpose and destiny. And that part of us is always becoming. And these two different parts are of the same whole. So you can tap into that, the beauty of the Pada Atman, that part of you that is innately perfect and has no needs and has no desires. And also that human part of you, the Jiva Atman, that strives to humbly improve, to evolve. We are simultaneously always being and also becoming at all times. Take a last 3 breaths right where you are. And then allow your knees to drop back together towards center. You can use your hands to help draw your knees up toward midline. Heel toe step your feet out wide so that your knees draw together at center and your feet come out wide now. And then press up onto your elbows. Tuck your chin in towards your chest. Slide your blocks off of your mat. Come on down toward the earth. You can leave your feet wide, right where they were. Bring your arms out wide and let your knees drop down toward the right for a few breaths. So it's like a staggered twist, twisted roots. Gaze can be to the sky or out over your left fingertips. Breathe all the way back towards center. Float your knees. Exhale, both knees down towards your left side now. Spin your gaze over your right fingertips for a few breaths. And then go ahead and slide it all the way back to center. There's some space here for any last posture, gesture, movement that may allow your practice to feel more complete. If you'd like to take that here, please find it. As well, if there's any sort of support, for your final posture of Shavasana, if you'd like to support your knees with your bolster or pillow, find that, or your blocks. As you're ready, lengthen your legs all the way out. Open your palms to the sky. We're almost there. I'm going to take a very gentle pranayama breath observation before settling down completely towards Shavasana. So soften into your breath. And we're going to feed the heart space, the home of Sankalpa, with a few rounds of Dirgha Pranayama, that 3-part breath. So as you inhale, lift your breath up from your belly towards your ribs as they expand, and then lift all the way up towards your collarbones. It's like a lift way up into your heart center. Inhale, inhale, inhale. And then as you exhale, visualize your breath moving down from your heart center towards your ribs and then rooting way down into your navel. Inhale, lift from your belly to your ribs, way up toward heart center. Infuse that heart with loving intention, with deepest truth. And then exhale all the way down from your heart, a narrowing of your ribs, and then way down to the fire at your navel. A few more rounds. Lift belly, ribs, heart, and collarbones. Descend from heart to ribs, down to your belly. One more time. And soften into your natural breath. And settle in for Shavasana. Begin to gently offer yourself a deeper expression of breath, maybe one that lifts right up into your heart center. It's a way to revive and awaken you after the integration of Shavasana. Take a few rounds of more active breath, as if you're lifting it from the soles of your feet way up toward the crown of your head, infusing your heart on the way. Then maybe on this next round, find some movement, the spread of your fingers and toes, or a big full body stretch. And as you're ready, you can make your way over onto your favorite side, perhaps bend into your knees and windshield wiper from side to side, or roll circles on your lower back with a squeeze. Take a breath or two there from side lying. And then press yourself up without rush toward a last seat. Of course, if you'd like to elevate your hips, you may. Take a moment for pause and observation. Scan your whole body, your whole system, all layers of you. And notice the sort of settling in of your Sankalpa, how you've proactively worked to make that highest truth more concrete in your experience. And for one last moment, draw your hands together again toward Anjali. Fold your hands together in prayer at your heart. Take a gentle, heartfelt bow forward. Thank yourself deeply for honoring your highest truth, honoring your deepest vows and your Sankalpa. And I thank you each deeply for joining this practice today. Please enjoy what's left of your day ahead. Namaste.